So, talking about area today, the big thing with area as opposed to circumference, with circumference you could either have the radius or the diameter because we had both of those formulas. For area, this theorem 1011, we've talked about area of a circle before, just haven't really done a whole lot with it. For area, to find the area of a circle, you have to have the radius. If you have the diameter, you gotta divide it by 2, right, half of that to get the radius. But to find the area of a circle, you're gonna take pi r squared. So if I have, for this first example here, if I want to find the area of a circle that has a 16-foot diameter, we'll leave our answer in terms of pi. So big thing here, you have to have the radius. That's the only way this formula works. So if I'm given the diameter, that's all the way across the circle. The radius is halfway across the circle. So the diameter is 16 feet. What is the radius? Once you have the radius, to find the area, you're going to take pi r squared. So 8 squared times pi. Best way to write your answer, I mentioned this yesterday, pi is not a variable, but a lot of times we treat it like a variable, so it's probably the best way to write your answer. So put that at the end. So 8 squared would give you 64, so your answer would be 64 pi. And since we're talking about area, what kind of units are we using? Squared. So this is going to be feet squared. Area is always units squared. Now, like I mentioned like 2 minutes ago, yesterday we were talking about the circumference and the length of an arc, which was just part of the entire circumference of a circle. So we talked about yesterday, well, if I'm just talking about this little chunk of the circle, we can take that little chunk divided by the whole circle. So it's always the measure of the arc divided by 360, and then we multiply that by the entire circumference. That's how you were to find the part of the circumference. We're doing the same thing today, except we're going to do that with area. Now, yesterday we were talking about arcs. So arcs are the actual outside of the circle. It's just like the line on the outside. That's an arc. What we're talking about today is the part inside the circle, the area. So when you're talking about an actual slice, the whole part of the circle, this is what is called a sector. So today we're finding areas of circles and areas of sectors of a circle. So the technical definition, it's going to be the region bounded by the arc. So like arc AB here, so that's going to be one boundary. And then the other 2 boundaries are going to be the 2 radii when you connect the endpoints of the arc. So the endpoints are A and B. So the radius going from A to the center and the radius going from B to the center. Technical definition. But you're just basically taking a slice of the circle. Okay? Kind of like yesterday, I think the formula looks more complicated than it actually is. To find the area of sector AOB, you will take the measure of arc AB, right, how big that is, over the entire circle, which is 360, times the entire area, so pi r squared. So jumping down here to this example here, if I wanted to find the area of sector GPH, we're going to leave our answer in terms of pi, just like we did yesterday. I like doing this in 2 steps, kind of like we did yesterday. I want to find the area of that sector. So we're going to start by finding the area of the entire circle. Like I said in the beginning, to make an area, you have to have radius. So double check that 15 is a radius. So we can plug that right into our formula. We do pi times r squared. So pi times 15 squared, which would give me 225 pi. Just like yesterday, that's the entire circle. I don't want the entire circle, I just want that bottom chunk right there. So we have to decide first, well, how much is that chunk? $72 degrees, right? It's 72 degrees out of, just like yesterday, 360, right? The entire circle is 360 degrees. Just like yesterday, we're going to multiply that by the entire area, And just like yesterday, if you plug this into your calculator, you do 72 divided by 360 times 225. It should give you 45. We're not plugging pi into our calculator. This would be an exact answer, 45 pi centimeters squared. And that's what it is. Questions? Okay, let's get this glued into page 45, section 10.7, area of circles and sectors. All right, so first one is we just want to find the area of the circle, and I think most, if not all of your problems today, we're going to leave in terms of pi, so you're not going to plug that pi into your calculator. So first one, we're going to draw a line all the way across the circle that is going to measure 13 inches. So if I want to find the area of any circle, the biggest thing, you have to have the radius. Is this the radius? No! It's the diameter. How do we get from the diameter to the radius? Take half of it. Yeah, divide by 2. So the radius would be 13 divided by 2, which would be 6.5. And then you take that, plug it into your formula. So to find the area, we would take pi times 6.5 squared. You're not going to plug the pi in your calculator, but you will need to take 6.5 squared, which would give you 42.25 pi. And don't forget your units, right? We're going to U inches squared. Very good. Okay. Okay, number 2. Now, what if we have a circle that looks more like an oval? That if we go all the way across, it is 2/5 centimeters. Just a little tiny circle. Now that's the diameter, it's all the way across. I need the radius, so I need to divide by 2. But sometimes when we take a fraction divided by 2, it can get kind of confusing. What's another way to think about dividing by 2? Times by 1/2. So instead of taking 2/5 divided by 2, let's take 2/5 times 1/2. Those 2's are going to cancel out. You're just going to get 1/5, which makes sense. 2/5, that would just be 1/5. Okay, that's going to be your radius. So plugging these into your formula to find the area, we would take pi r squared. So pi times 1/5 squared. When you take 1/5 squared, 1/5 times 1/5, that's just going to give you 1/25 pi. You could write your answer like this, but probably a better way to write your answer. Remember, pi is a number. So a better way to write your answer would be to multiply 1 times pi, which gives you pi over 25 centimeters squared. That would probably be the better way. So write that. Any questions on finding just area? Okay, let's move on to finding the area of sectors. So same idea, but just a chunk of the circle instead of the entire circle. So number 3. Got our circle. We're going to be looking at this sector here. So either you can just shade in with your pencil, or if you have colors, that's fine too. We want to find the area of that shaded area. This arc is going to measure 84 degrees. And this measure here is going to be 9 meters. I kind of liked how we did it yesterday, how we always started with, okay, I'm going to find the entire circumference. Now I only need this much of the circumference. Let's do the same thing here, because we're going to have to find it anyway. Let's find the area of the entire circle. So to find the area of the entire circle, I need the radius. Do I have the radius? I do. It's 9, right? So we're going to take pi times 9 squared, which would be 81 pi. But remember, that's the whole circle. I don't need the whole circle. I'm just talking about that little chunk right there. So we need a way to write how much of the circle is that little chunk. 84 over 360. It's 84 degrees out of 360 of all the degrees. And we're going to take that and multiply it by 81 pi. If we were to multiply all that out without doing the pi, don't multiply the pi out, you should get 18.9 pi meters squared. Let's do another circle here. We'll look at a little bit smaller sector. This area right here. Now for this circle, that arc is going to be 45 degrees and have a radius of 4 inches. So I need the radius. I have the radius. So to find the area, we will take pi r squared. So pi times 4 squared, which would be 16 pi, which is all of the circle. What part of the circle am I working with? How much of the circle? 45 out of 360. So we're going to multiply that by 16 pi. Just give you 2 pi inches squared. 2 pi inches squared. Is it making sense? Basically the same thing as yesterday, but instead of circumference, we are looking at area. Let's do 2 more of these. Number 5. So this time, when we draw our circle and our sector, we want to look at this larger sector. So we're going to be using the major arc there, not the minor arc.
Think about this time period.
Okay, so for this circle, this angle right here is going to be 120 degrees. And the radius is going to be 6 meters. So we still want to start with the area. So the area of the entire thing, we would take pi r, which is 6 squared. So when you take pi r squared, what's the area of the whole circle? 36 pi. 6 times 6, 36 pi. Okay, now be really careful here, because they don't give me the angle measure I need. That's the angle measure of actually the part that I don't want. I want the rest of it. I need to figure out what is the measure of this major arc. How are you going to find the measure of this major arc? We're going to take 360, which would be all of it, take away that 120, and we would get 240. So that major arc is 240 degrees out of the 360 degrees. Multiply that by the 36 pi, and it's going to give you 24 pi meters squared. Okay, last one of these, number 6. All right, so this time on our circle, we're going to draw a diameter all the way across. And then we're going to draw a radius as well. And we are going to be looking for everything except that little sector right there. I'm going to find the area of all of that. So the measure of this little sector is going to be 45 degrees. And this right here is going to be 6 meters. So once again, the biggest thing, you have to just pay really close attention. We need the radius. Do I have the radius? Not this time. This is all the way across. This is the diameter. My radius would be Okay, so to find the area, we would take pi times 3 squared, which would be 9 pi. Also need to be cautious here. I need to figure out how much of this circle is blue. 45 degrees is not blue, so how am I going to figure out how much of it is blue? Subtract 360 minus 45 would give me 315. So 315 degrees out of 360 degrees is the part that I'm looking for. Multiply that by 9 pi, and we should get 7.9 pi meters squared. That's the majority of what you're doing in your homework today. There's a few other things to watch out for, but that's most of it. You guys have questions on those ones? Okay, so the last one's the same thing, except I don't have a picture for you. So we're going to have to read this information and take the stuff from the information to try to come up with a picture. So it says, I want to find the area of the sector TOP in circle O. Leave your answer in terms of pi. So we're talking about a circle, so let's see what we can draw here. Now if it tells me it's circle O, where does that tell me the O is? In the middle. O is the center of the circle. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but it does tell me I have a sector TOP. So I've got the O, but if I have a sector TOP, where would the T and the P be? On the outside. And I don't know exactly where T is. I don't know exactly where P is. It may change depending on the information that I have. But I have points T and P on the outside, and I'm going to have the sector that looks like that. What I'm looking for is the area of sector TOP. So, depending on what information I'm given, that may not be a super accurate picture, but at least gives me something to go off of. So number 7, let's say for this circle we have a diameter of 16 inches. And let's say the measure of arc TP is 135. So if I were to label the circle with that information, we have a diameter of 16, so that means that all the way across is 16 inches. It says the measure of arc, TP, so straight from T to P, is 135. So once we have our picture, we're going to do the same thing as before. To find the area, what's the first thing I need to do? Find the radius. So 16 divided by 2 would be 8. 8 squared would give me 64, so my area is 64 pi. And lucky that I have a picture. How much of the circle is my shaded area? $135 divided by 360. Multiply that by the entire area, which would be 64 pi. So you should get 24 pi inches squared. Let's do one more. So we have a diameter of 15 centimeters. And the measure of arc TOP is 180. So we have a diameter this time of 15 centimeters. And it says the measure of arc TOP, can be bigger than that, it's going to be 180. So if I find the area, we first need to find the diameter. When you say 15 divided by 2, you get 7.5 for the radius. Plug that in and square it. 7.5 squared gives you 56.25 pi. So my area would be 56.25 pi. Now when I'm finding the area of the entire thing, you could totally just go 180 over 360 times by 56.25. But if it's a 180 degree arc, what kind of arc would it be? It's gonna be a semicircle. It's half of the circle. So you can totally do 180 over 360, but it'd probably just be easier. We're just gonna take half of 56.25 pi, which you get 28.125 pi centimeters squared.